Ready as I'll ever be.
Man, you just come with so much energy. It's the Sports Take Lunch Break, brought to you by Office Essentials, your hometown supplier of all the office products and furniture you need to grow your business. I'm your host, Andrew Corns, and we're back with another episode. We've got plenty to cover as always, so let's dive right in. Joining me on the mics, to my left, I've got Stuart Holtgren.
Hello.
I've also got Greg Bussman sitting next to him.
Hello.
And in the usual producer's chair, I've got Dan Sashanik next to me.
I'm the coolest.
In case you missed last week's episode, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts or on the Office Essentials YouTube channel, here's a quick recap of everything we touched upon. We gave an update on the St. Louis MLS team. We touched upon St. Louis FC, and we discussed everything from David Perron being named an All-Star to the return of Conor McGregor. You all have your overtime card in hand just in case things get a little lively and the 25-minute clock needs to be extended 5 more minutes. I have used my overtime card last week, so I'm without one until February. But if everyone's ready, we'll jump into the first half. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
Let's get the 25-minute timer started. Here we go. All right, we're going to kick things off with the St. Louis Blues midseason assessment. We've got the NHL All-Star Game this weekend. First question to you, Stuart. What's your letter grade for the team performance of the St. Louis Blues so far?
I'm going to go with an A. Expectations after you win a Stanley Cup is you have a Stanley Cup hangover. And the Blues have been, I don't know how else they could be rated. They're just phenomenal so far this season.
Would you agree with that, Greg?
I would, for sure. They're
just an A, not an A+.
I do full letter grades here.
Okay.
I don't do plus and minus system.
They've been incredible, really. You keep waiting for that letdown, and, they lose a game here and there, but it doesn't turn into a long streak, and they're playing a relentless style of hockey, and there's almost zero to complain about.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say it's an A all around. No Stanley Cup hangover. I do worry a little bit that that might show up come like April or May when it could be the worst time, because playing 2 full years of deep playoff runs could be really tough on you.
I kind of, look at February maybe as, the dog days, as they say in baseball during the hot summer months, where February where the season really gets long and tedious, and maybe that's a time you look at where.
Sure, and if they got a pretty comfortable lead in the division, hard to keep
maybe.
Focus and things like that.
Yeah, it's probably human nature.
Well, next question, now that we got the letter grades, we're all in consensus that it's an A for the Blues.
Oh, yeah.
Who has been your team MVP for this year? If you had to pick one guy that you've been most impressed with, do you think they've been leading the team? Greg, I'm going to go to you first. Do you have an MVP that kind of stands out to you?
Maybe Perron. That's one that jumps to my head. They were going to be looking for some goal-scoring punch after Tarasenko went down, and he has provided that.
Leads the team in just about every offensive stat across the board.
Yeah, I'll go with Perron.
Okay. Stuart, would you agree, or you got somebody else in mind?
I would go with Alex Pietrangelo. I think the captain's been invaluable, and looking at the rest of the players out there, I think he's the least replaceable at the moment among the team, even over Ryan O'Reilly, I think. But those would be my top two.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you, Stu. I got Pietrangelo listed. It's kind of a shame that John Carlson's having that monster offensive year from a defensive standpoint, because I think if he's not, Pietrangelo's got a real good shot at the Norris.
Yeah, I actually don't think Pietrangelo will get nominated even, which I think is a real shame, but he's very under the radar so far this season.
Does it make you concerned, though, that because he's having such a good year, he's got to know how much his value is, and that does put the Blues in maybe a little tricky situation come the summer with free agency pending?
Yeah, ultimately it's his choice. So we'll see, and you never fault a guy if they want to get as much money as they can while they're playing. Your career only lasts so long, but I would sure love it if the Blues found a way to keep him somehow. It would just hurt seeing him wearing another uniform.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? Same thing?
Yeah, I'll echo what Stuart said. I was going to say the same thing, but I'm going to just choose not to worry about the Pietrangelo situation.
Trust Armstrong that he'll get it done in the end.
Yeah, he hasn't made too many. I mean, you can nitpick with a few of those deals, but he's put together a pretty good team that should be good for a while. And I think we need to. And we don't. I'm putting my trust in him to do what's best for the team.
Sure. Well, now on the flip side, it's probably hard to kind of nitpick a guy that has underperformed, given that the team's been playing so well top to bottom. But if you had to really pick one guy that you thought, I maybe expected a little more from this guy, or he's just not performing as well as he usually does, do you have a guy in mind that has maybe not quite lived up to what he should be?
Well, I think Justin Falk so far this year has been underperforming as far as expectations. But as far as a guy that Blues are probably familiar with, and the guy who might be the whipping boy of the team, the fan base always seems to have one, and really they've moved on from Allen, I think, more or less, I think is Sanford this year. Sanford gets a lot of flack all around, and Sean's not here to defend himself, but Sanford always seems to have a big game right after Sean in the office talks some crap on him. So
we need more Sean anger towards Sanford.
more Sean anger towards players, and they start performing. It's a lovely thing to see.
Greg, do you have a guy in mind that?
Yes, I do. But let me preface that by saying that it's a nitpicky choice.
Okay.
Because as I look through the stats beforehand,
I feel like a hot take's about to hit us, and you're.
As I look through the stats beforehand, it's hard to really complain too much about anybody. But I kind of think, Binnington's been a little inconsistent.
Okay. Can you want to elaborate on that? Just because
no,
you're just going to leave it hanging in the air.
Leave it hanging there. Maybe it's recency bias with Colorado. Couple games where he's clearly underperformed in there, but now again, I said it was nitpicky because he's been pretty good overall, but I feel like a little more uneven maybe than last year.
Yeah, I would agree with you on Binnington. I think they showed a stat after the Colorado game where it was Binnington and Allen's numbers side by side. Obviously, the sample size is almost double for Binnington than what Allen's played this year, but Allen's numbers are better, goals against and save percentage. And Binnington's numbers this year, record aside, if you look at save percentage and goals against, are about in line with Allen's career record. So I think you do have a point that Binnington, from just a pure, numbers standpoint, aside from the wins, is kind of what Allen's been over his career.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the result, though. I mean, they're, first place by a long shot in the West, but. If you got to find somebody, that's where I went.
Sure. I went along the lines of Stu. I think Justin Falk, there was a lot of hype when he got traded here, obviously. And, we know what he's done in Carolina. He's been a really good player. And I think he's starting to come into his own. And it's not –
he's been better with lately.
Exactly. And there's a natural integration to a team that's always going to come. But he's only got 4 goals, 9 assists, and he's -6 on the year. And he was kind of touted as a power play specialist, and you'd expect if you're a power play specialist, you'd just start accruing more points. Only 13 points really isn't a whole lot for a guy that you expect more from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, if you're Vince Dunn, you're looking at Falk's performance, and you're saying, why is this guy getting more money than me? I mean, obviously Dunn is younger, and he's less proven, but I mean, I'd say Dunn is the far better player. And he's just a joy to watch out there. That's not necessarily a knock against Falk. Just Dunn is fabulous.
I am terrified, though, that if Pietrangelo walks, Falk becomes our default 1A defenseman. I don't think he's capable of being your rock or your anchor at the back.
I'd say that's Parayko by default. Just Falk doesn't have the chops defensively to anchor a defensive core, and that was part of the problem in Carolina that they had. I think his partner was Dahan over there for a while.
Stu loves a good hard pronunciation of a name.
Well, Dahan, that's got to be Dutch, and I think I can pronounce Dutch names a little bit better than Finnish names, but not by much.
Okay, so last question on the Blues front is preseason. Episode 1, we did some picks. Greg wasn't here for that, so we don't have him on record to kind of ridiculed, but Stuart and I did some preseason picks. And if you go back to that, Stuart, you and I both picked the Blues to finish second in the division. I think we were being carefully realistic about things. We both had them going out in the second round of the playoffs. Do you kind of still feel like your preseason prediction for the Blues is on par with what could happen?
Well, I think my caveat at the time was I hope they win the Stanley Cup, but it's a guarded opinion. I think I echo your sentiment of there might be a late season kind of cold streak, which something like that could drop them into second place. And the Blues as an organization, historically, the second round's been their downfall. I mean, I think they've lost like 18 series in their NHL history in the second round. So I was just kind of playing it safe there, and I hope I'm wrong.
And you used the term on our first episode that the Central Division is the Thunderdome. And I think that's a very accurate description of what the division is when you've got St. Louis, Colorado, Dallas, all very, very strong. They're deep. They're fast. They're all good top to bottom. So any of those teams could beat any of the others.
It's a Thunderdome. I like that. But maybe not the teams we were expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Other than the Blues.
Sure.
I mean, I'm thinking Nashville.
Chicago, again, has been pretty
Winnipeg,
I
yeah.
mean, Nashville yesterday, after losing to the Wild, dropped to last in the Central. So
yeah, that's borderline shocking.
I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I feel like a lot of people jumped on the Nashville bandwagon when they made the Duchesne move and sent Subban on, and I actually thought that it was a downgrade because I thought they already had a lot of offensive firepower, and not that Subban's like a super responsible defensive defenseman, but I think that they made a little bit of an error in that.
Well, he's working magic in New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, his performance in New Jersey has been...
As Dan can attest.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, 3 of 4 of us picked New Jersey as our dark horse team in our preseason episode 1, and Dan even went so far as to pick New Jersey to win the Cup.
Well, that's why I had to get that in.
Do you want to defend yourself really quickly, Dan, for picking New Jersey to win the Cup?
I still think they're going to – no, I'm there. Yeah, okay. Give me all the troll you want.
They're only like 20 points out of the playoffs, so they got a shot.
They're still there, you know. And
you only have to look back as far as the Blues last year.
Yeah. I think I might just be a year behind.
Are you sticking with Nashville or New Jersey to win the Cup this year?
No.
Okay.
No, sorry. I cannot put another team in that spot though.
Yeah, especially not the Blues. Please don't put your curse on another team.
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
To Sean's credit, though, if he's listening, he was the one of us that picked the Blues to win the Cup again, and so he's still looking pretty strong with that. We're going to shift the focus a little bit. The All-Star Game's in St. Louis, so it's still relevant to the city. I'm curious, are you guys excited for the game beyond just it being in St. Louis? Do you get amped up for an All-Star Game, really, or you going to watch it? What are your thoughts on the game this weekend?
I'm pretty much only excited about it being in St. Louis. I'm not a real fan of all-star contest of any sport, really. That's just my personal opinion. But I think the fact that it's in St. Louis makes it exciting and something I'll pay attention to.
Are we talking exclusively to the game, or are you the type that – because, oftentimes the Saturday the skills competition can be more enjoyable than the All-Star
actually,
game.
That's true. I mean, home run derby maybe. That's kind of played out, but that's another podcast. But no, I think the skills probably. I'm worried they're gonna make it a little gimmicky with the, whatever this is, where they're shooting pucks from the stands and.
I love that idea.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
If it works, I'll be the first one to give them credit, but. I'm on guard for some gimmicky stuff.
Okay. What about you, Stu? Are you excited for the All-Star Game just in general?
Yeah, the moment I'm most excited about is just seeing when Berube is going to put all 4 Blues on the ice at the same time in St. Louis, and hopefully we'll see Oshie match up against them, something like that. So I'll watch the game, but as a cheapskate, I don't think I can fork out the money that those tickets are going for on the secondary market.
One thing in regards to the skills competition is I wish the NHL would do what the NBA does from the skills competition in terms of the slam dunk contest and the 3-point, where you don't have to be an all-star to be in the skills competition. because oftentimes there's a lot of really quality players outside of it. And the person I'm thinking of in particular is Colton Parayko on the hardest shot. Even though he's not an all-star, him doing the hardest shot competition in St. Louis, I feel like he'd give just about anybody a run for his money. It'd be cool to see that.
Yeah, that didn't used to be the case, did it? I feel like 20 years ago or longer,
I feel like you're right
they
on
invited people in because home run derby they invite in non-all-stars, correct? I believe.
I don't think so.
Okay.
They may have at one point.
I honestly don't know.
I just feel like they're too restrictive. Like there's so many other really.
No, that's a good idea, Andrew. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Why
I
not?
just want to see Parayko fire 100.
You want to see the hardest shot represented, and the hardest shot is probably not represented in the All-Star game. So.
Exactly. Yeah, totally my point. 3-on-3 format, you guys like that, or would you prefer they go back to the standard 5-on-5? Does it matter?
I was in here a couple weeks ago, and I poo-pooed the 3-on-3.
You did. You were a real Debbie Downer.
I don't know. Nice.
I teed Dan up for that one.
I prefer, and we had a little discussion about this, and you had some interesting points, but I prefer when they keep the rules of the game similar. But thank God at least it doesn't determine the home field advantage for the Stanley Cup Finals.
So do you fall on the spectrum of serious competition versus kind of gimmicky? You're maybe a little bit more on the serious side, but not, Bud Selig serious.
Yeah. I guess, I'd prefer to see more, the game's best playing a high-level game. It's probably the best way to sum up what I'd be interested in seeing.
Which side do you fall on, Stu?
I probably fall a little bit on the more gimmicky side. I like the competition aspect, but also like the KHL did their All-Star Game this week, and the
God,
KHL
it was wonderful.
always has an entertaining thing, and they even had one moment in which the goalie of one of the teams took a face-off, and the other team scored right away, but it was still like one of those moments that went viral. And
Did you see the rock paper scissors competition?
I didn't.
So they had like a shootout competition where a guy would go down and have a shootout against the goalie, and he skated down, got right in front of the goalie. They both dropped their mitts and did a rock paper scissors, and the skater won, and he just tapped it in. That's my kind of All-Star game. Just go crazy.
That does sound kind of fun, and
because people remember that. Nobody remembers what happened in the All-Star game last year.
right now,
Who won?
right, exactly. And the big caveat to what I'm saying is it's hard to duplicate the intensity of a regular game. People don't want to get hurt. I'm thinking across all sports, not just the NHL. But
I mean, certain sports definitely lend themselves better to all-star competitions being actual representations of the sport. I'm thinking basketball is primarily a shooting league, and baseball, the essentials of the game are still the same. It's really the NFL.
It's
and
really
NHL.
hard. They're contact sports, and GMs and fans don't want their players getting hurt in an exhibition game, and especially one that's right in the middle of the season.
Sure.
As the NHL's is, at least the NFL's is after the season, which is that this weekend, as a matter of fact? Is it? Pro Bowl's not also this weekend.
No, Pro Bowl's the second week of February, I thought.
It's after the Super Bowl.
it is.
Yeah.
I think it is this weekend, actually.
It is this weekend, you're right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Again, who cares about the Pro Bowl?
Right. So
I'm still surprised that you're kind of down on that skill thing where they're going to be up above the rafters shooting pucks down.
I didn't say I was down on it. I said I'm on guard for being gimmicky and cheesy and stupid, but hopefully they pull it off. And
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if you saw the video of Crosby and Malkin. That's where the root of the idea came from, is they'll do it in Penguins practice, and Crosby was out there just, basically not even trying and just pinpoint accuracy.
You don't have to try.
yeah,
They're so good.
they are good. And I think anything that illustrates just how good and otherworldly talented these guys are is good.
And if you're one of the people in the stadium and you're looking above you with a puck coming over your head, I think that's just kind of a cool thing.
Yeah,
that
probably would be pretty cool.
I think there's a lot of fun that can be had with that.
But I'm also, like Stuart, a cheapskate, and not going to be able to justify the expense to go down there.
What do you think the ratio is between St. Louis natives attending the game versus people traveling? 50-50.
Well, do we know what the season ticket holders, do they get an option to buy or first?
I don't know
First
if they do or
refusal?
not.
Because I think that makes a massive effect on it. I'd say, well, I have no idea. You can't really guess.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of out-of-towners in, but I don't know.
Really? Yeah, probably.
You know, Nashville's close enough. Chicago's close enough.
I mean, I can't fathom going on a trip to see an All-Star game, but it doesn't mean other people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather spend that money to see the Blues play in Vegas or
Yeah.
Minneapolis. Or,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the last question about the All-Star game is I'm going to put you on the spot. Who wins? It's very important. We care about who wins.
Do we?
Not really, but you got to make a pick. So, of the 4 teams, you've got the Atlantic Division, the Pacific Division, the Metro Division, and the Central. Who are you taking, Greg?
Central.
Central. Okay, Homer.
Homer.
All right.
Just being a homer.
Yeah.
I'm going Metro.
Stuart, I also went Metro. I thought of all the lineups, that looks the worst to me, so therefore they will win. Because there's not a lot of quality in that team, to be honest with
I
you.
like the thought process
Yeah.
behind that.
Yeah, it makes no sense, so therefore I'm going to go with that.
Probably be right.
We've got about 5 minutes on the clock still, so we're just going to run through a little more of our NHL midseason assessment. So before the season, we made some preseason picks for who's going to make the finals, who's going to win the finals. Greg, we don't have you on record, so you avoided that. But, Stuart, you had Tampa Bay over Colorado. I had Pittsburgh over Dallas. Dan, you had New Jersey over Colorado. Obviously, we know Dan's not very confident in his pick, but Stuart, you got Tampa winning. I've got Pittsburgh winning. You still feel confident that Tampa and Colorado could be the potential finals matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's Tampa and Blues or something like that. But Tampa's a very, very good team, very talented team. And the NHL playoffs are just a complete crapshoot. You never quite know who's going to come out. So I'm as confident as I can be. But again, I hope I'm wrong and it's the Blues instead.
Yeah, I was sweating my pick early. Pittsburgh and Dallas. Dallas came out looking like garbage, and
It's looking better.
it is. And Pittsburgh finally got healthy, and Crosby's scoring at a relentless rate right now. So I'm feeling pretty good about that one. The other question I want to ask you is there a team that has most impressed you based on your expectations this year? And I'll lead off just so you can kind of have an idea of what I'm going for. So the team that I picked was the Islanders. I honestly didn't give the Islanders a lot of thought process that they were going to maintain their ability, and they lost their number one goalie, Robin Lehner. They brought in Varlamov, but I'm just so impressed with Barry Trotz. Like, he just continually has a system that works, and no matter where he goes and no matter who he's coaching, he always gets a team that really gives it their all, and oftentimes puts in a pretty good performance. I don't think it'll necessarily translate to playoff success, but I think the Islanders have really impressed me compared to what I thought. You guys have anybody?
I would say on the opposite end of the spectrum, by surprising, it would be Detroit. I mean, we all knew they would be bad, and the unfortunate thing for Detroit fans is that they'll finish last. That's basically assured now. But even in last place with the NHL draft lottery, they have an 18% chance of winning. So likely they'll exist and kind of commiserate through this season for who knows, maybe the 4th overall pick or something like that. But they're down to negative 88 goal differential, I believe. And they're on pace for one of the worst
bad,
seasons
right?
in the modern era for a non-expansion team. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
But I think Fabry's doing pretty well there for what it's worth.
I think Fabry might be negative 25 of those 88. His plus minus is pretty bad over there, but he's doing better than he would be here. So
Yeah. Greg,
The
anybody?
next closest is the Devils with negative 47.
I mean, I think it's strategic what Detroit's doing, and Yzerman's rolling the dice that he's going to
He's
get
doing it
Lafreniere at the number one overall pick.
That's a big roll of the dice.
It is, but if anybody has the clout to do it, it's Steve Yzerman in Detroit. Nobody's
Yeah,
gonna question him.
at the end of the day, he can't control getting that pick. So.
Right.
yeah, it's just also a time to go back through Blues Twitter and see what Blues fans were calling for Jimmy Howard to be traded to the Blues 3 or 4 years ago.
Even
because
last year.
last year, Jimmy Howard is next to blanking in New Jersey.
Schneider.
Next to Corey Schneider, I think Jimmy Howard might be the worst goalie to be a paid starter in the NHL this season.
It's hard to argue that.
I can't.
Greg, we got about 90 seconds left in this segment. Is there a team that you wanted to reference really quickly that either positively or negatively has been different than your expectations?
Yeah, I thought Nashville would be better.
Yeah.
I think all of us, I speak for everyone in St. Louis, that's definitely happy that they're not doing well. Because I don't know if there's a team today that I dislike more because of their fan base than Nashville.
They feel mentally deflated for some reason. They have the skill out there. They just look and feel like they're not wanting to do it for each other.
I mean, Shea Weber is having almost a Norris caliber season up in Montreal. So that trade that they made a few years ago is looking worse and worse for him.
That's a good point.
It goes to show you the lessons the Blues learned from winning the Cup. Being relentless on the puck, playing for each other. It just stands in such stark contrast to what's going on down there in Nashville.
Sure. All right, well, that will do it for our St. Louis first half. Unless anyone wants to use their overtime card to add 5 minutes, I think
I'll keep mine and
going to hold it on for another week or so. Looks like everybody's comfortable holding on to their overtime pick. So we're going to switch gears, but before we do that, here's a quick word from Office Essentials.
This is Emily from Office Essentials. Did you know that germs on hands can be transferred up to 7 times, making frequently touched surfaces in the office hotspots for viruses? And a virus can spread through an entire office in just a few hours. Some germs can even live for days on hard surfaces. So hotspots like door handles, keyboards, light switches, desktops, and even elevator buttons should be cleaned even more often. And don't forget about the kitchen. Break rooms have some of the germiest surfaces in the entire office. Sink faucets, microwaves, and refrigerator handles too. Office Essentials can help you protect your office from sickness this flu season. Right now at stlofficesupplies.com, we're offering a free printable poster that you can print and hang around your office. It contains tips to help coworkers prevent the spread of the flu. Office Essentials is your hometown supplier of all the office supplies and furniture you need to run and grow your business. Learn more today at stlofficesupplies.com.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Now we've covered everything here locally in St. Louis. We're going to zoom out and go around the sports world. I'm getting that clock going again, another 25 minutes in this half. First thing we're going to talk about is the NFL playoffs. It was definitely the forefront of everyone's mind. So we've got Super Bowl 54 coming up in a week and a half-ish from now. Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers. But the Chiefs beat the Titans 35-24. The 49ers beat the Packers 37-20. Did you guys watch the games, and what are your initial opinions? Don't give any predictions yet, but just initial opinions on the two teams going into the Super Bowl.
I did not watch the game. I fully believe that the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl, and I am not cheering for the Chiefs due to their support for the Rams moving.
I don't know if we'll have enough time, but I want to retort with that, Stu, because I'll come back to you. Greg?
I'll play my overtime card for that.
Okay, hold on to that.
Stuart's in trouble.
I was researching all weekend just in case Stuart mentioned that.
I did watch the game, and hard not to be impressed with Kansas City and San Francisco, really. I can't help but think I would have rather seen San Francisco play Seattle. Green Bay didn't seem to mount much of a defense or a challenge or whatever you want to call it. But I think the Chiefs will win the Super Bowl, and I'm excited for our coworkers in Kansas City to get to enjoy that.
Well, I'm glad you guys held your predictions until next week, gentlemen. I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. You can change your mind a couple of times before now. I'm going to hold my prediction because I think there's still a lot of time to kind of think about things, and it feels like everyone's just automatically writing in the Chiefs as the champions, and that's a dangerous thing considering how much the running game from San Francisco eats up so much time.
Yeah, they're definitely good.
Yeah, I think they're going to control the flow of the game, and they might minimize Mahomes' ability to get on the field enough to generate 30 or 40 points.
Well, I got to say, I'm so excited for our coworkers. Maybe I jumped the gun with that. I'll have to give it some more thought.
You might want to think about that, yeah.
But I'll revisit that next week for sure.
Okay. Well, we do have a couple of minutes.
Put the horse back in the barn.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I'm going to press Stu a little bit. So you had referenced Kansas City voting St. Louis sort of out of the city. Now, it was the vote was 30-2 in favor of St. Louis moving, and it was a secret vote. So still to this day, as far as I'm aware, nobody has officially been on record as the 2 that held and the 30 that said no. But my question is, let's say Kansas City was one of the 30 teams that said move St. Louis. Can you really fault them that much? They're just, I mean, they had to, their vote wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah, I think there was a kind of a strategic approach. Now, I understand there's also conflicting reports on whether or not Clark Hunt voted in favor of on the relocation committee. The initial reports were that he was against it, and then it came out or was heavily implied that he was in favor of it, and Jerry Jones rallied and got more votes to move to the main vote. So I think that's part of it. Can I fault them? No. Do I have to support them? No. I don't really necessarily buy the idea that you have to support the Chiefs just because you're in Missouri. Now, I love Kansas City as a city. I think it's a fantastic place. I think the World War I museum is something that everyone in America should visit.
It is a high-quality museum.
Oh, it's amazing. It's well worth the admission price. So I'm not hopefully attacking Kansas City and coming across that way. I'm attacking the NFL in general and in this specific place, Kansas City. Now, I think the Raiders and the Bengals were the 2 that are most accepted as the ones that voted against the move. And my mom's family is from Green Bay, so I grew up in Green Bay. And Green Bay was the one that hurt me the most because out of any team in the country that should be against relocation, it should be the Green Bay Packers. So, all that said, the Chiefs also put up billboards in downtown St. Louis within a week of the Rams moving, which comes across as extremely predatory, and I'm not the only one that caught that and felt that way. And I believe they released Kansas City Chiefs Budweiser packs also within the first few weeks after the Rams left. So I'm not going to be unhappy for my Chiefs friends when they win. I will say win because I fully expect it, and you can rake me over the coals in 3 weeks if that's the case, that I'm wrong. But I personally don't feel any glow for cheering for them and pressure, though I am happy that Mahomes and Kelsey supported the Blues. Okay. I'm not going to bash that.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to really explain that because I think there's more nuance to the vote than just
Definitely.
The Chiefs voted out St. Louis and therefore they are the villain, because I think
and we don't know what those discussions go on behind the scenes. The NFL is cold, calculated, and those owners, you don't get to be a billionaire and own an NFL team without being cold and calculated. So if you vote no against that, you might be making an enemy of Jerry Jones and Stan Kroenke, both 2 very powerful figures. So I understand that, but as I've said before, sports are an emotional thing, and the city of St. Louis, to me, is my emotional core. So going against the city will reflect how I see your team.
Sure. And, I'm glad you referenced the Bengals. They are on record by most accounts as one of the 2 teams that voted to keep St. Louis. However, their motives were not pure because the Bengals owner is notoriously cheap, and he knew if the Rams went to LA, it would increase the amount of money that every owner would have to spend on his team, and he voted against it so he didn't have to spend money. So it was not like a pure, the Bengals are here to save the day. He had a very greedy motive. So
but he was
again,
also
there's nuance to everything.
He was going to get a check for the relocation fee, which ended up being $300 million per team? Or?
Exactly. So again, motives are not pure. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and the Raiders' motive wasn't pure either. The Raiders voted no so they could keep the LA market share. So completely understand that. Though in an alternate universe, if Clark Hunt thought it was better and worth the risk of alienating Jerry Jones, if he would have publicly voted no and come out supporting the Rams in St. Louis, he could have won a lot of brownie points with a lot of the St. Louis market, and I think long-term that might have worked out better. But ultimately, winning the Super Bowl would win more of a market share anyways, so in 3 weeks it probably won't matter.
Well, let's shift gears. We're going to get really into the sludge of things, and I'm not sure if you know where I'm going next. We're talking about the Houston Astros, because things just get murkier and murkier by the day. I'm not going to try to fill everyone in if you're not up to speed. I think we all are.
one sordid tale to another.
It just gets worse every 24 hours. I feel like there's something new. And the most recent one is obviously what's going on with Altuve. And, there's that video. Was he wearing a buzzer or something? Let's just say, theoretically, that it came out that they found that he was wearing equipment. What would you say the punishment should be to the team, to the players, if it comes out that any of them were wearing an actual wired piece to tip pitches?
Well, I think the most realistic punishment that you can dole out to a team is losing draft picks. I don't think you can vacate championships. It's kind of a symbolic gesture, but I think taking draft picks away actually hurts the team and might cause some regret.
I can see your point there. I'm curious. I don't know if you're familiar with sort of world football and what they will often do in terms of sanctions, but they'll often put what they call a transfer ban, which means that a team can't sign anyone. Would you be a proponent to, maybe they said, hey, Houston, you can't sign a free agent for 1 or 2 years. Don't you think that would also be kind of restrictive and punish them?
It certainly would. I would anticipate some blowback from the Players Association on that. And my point is that teams nowadays are the free agency market is almost stalled out on its own anyway, and teams are focused on building up their farm systems and homegrown talent. So to take draft picks, it really hits them where it hurts.
Sure.
To me. And then as far as the player goes, if he's really wearing a buzzer, and I'm not sure it's definitive. It sure looks suspicious, though.
And it is going to be hard to prove.
Yeah, I mean, if it can be proven, I think there's probably deserves a pretty lengthy suspension.
Okay, so you're not a proponent of if it were proven, would he be banned from life?
I think I hadn't considered that really. I think most of I guess it depends on how cooperative he was, and most of the people that have been banned for life from baseball were banned for life for not cooperating with investigations and being obstinate and so forth. I don't know. Even steroid abusers were just suspended. None of them got banned for life.
That's a good point.
And that's considered cheating also.
Sure.
So.
Where do you weigh in on this, Stu?
I'm starting to lean more and more towards the more evidence that comes out towards stripping Altuve of his MVP and just leaving. Well, I was thinking about just leaving it vacated, but I think since that's kind of a merit thing, I wouldn't have a problem with doing next man up for the MVP that year and just kind of, I know with the Heisman, Reggie Bush just left that vacated, but
didn't they strip Braun of his MVP and therefore give it to someone else, unless I'm mistaken on that one?
I don't recall on that. That might be the case, but if there's a precedent,
I feel like there's a precedent for it.
Yeah, then
for the steroids.
Yeah. I mean, we know for sure he won in, I think, 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he won in 2017, and we know he was cheating in 2017. So I think there's no reason why they can't do it now. Now, I don't know if that would come from the BBWA is the one that decides that, and not the MLB front office. But if they make, it wouldn't surprise me if more evidence comes out that that's a step that they take. I think he would get a standard suspension. I don't see him getting banned for life, not at this time.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a weird position on this, because when the initial stuff came out about the trash can banging and things like that, I actually thought that baseball overreacted in the punishment. And what I mean by that is, I think the Major League Baseball was not prepared for the advancement in technology. And when you watch the World Series, you could see players on the bench had iPads, so they can already sort of in real time study the like they're seeing the feed we're seeing. They can see the pitches coming down. They can start figuring out signs. So all the Astros did, if we're just talking about the trash can stuff and all of that, they basically took technology and advanced it to a point that we've never seen. They were just kind of ahead of the curve to a degree, and I think baseball wasn't prepared for that. Baseball sort of opened the door to this new technological era in baseball and didn't know how to contain a team that was trying to take advantage of it. fundamentally. But I think when we're talking about wearing a device, that is so far beyond the bounds of reason that you have to ban a guy permanently.
Permanently?
For me, yes. If it was proven definitively that Altuve was wearing something like that, he's done. It's over.
He wasn't the only one.
And that's the thing. I'm saying every single person, because they also won, So it's this huge thing where, they won a title with it. So it clearly had a significant advantage that you can't fully equate. So you have to take the
They kept
biggest.
doing it.
Yeah, you have to take the most drastic measure to prevent that from ever happening again. And then baseball really has to address the technology that exists in today's world, because I feel like baseball is so behind in everything that they do that they weren't prepared for technology.
Well, I think in reference to players having iPads and stuff on the bench, they are required by MLB to not have a live feed. I believe they have a delay on any access to.
But they can
to the
still
but I think
study
if they're-
pitches and
yeah. But that's why they have the video room, and that's been the case for decades now, where they have the video room and you can go back there and review.
I mean, let's say
whether or not they follow those rules. Is
So
another
if there was a guy in center field with binoculars that was standing and viewing the pitch and he waved, is that illegal?
Yes.
It is. And why? I'm just curious why. Because in other sports, if you figure out what a team's play is or whatever, it's not like illegal. It's just, wow, you figured it out.
No, I think there's gamesmanship and there's cheating, and I think.
And why is that cheating to figure out?
If a player, I think even if a player watches a feed of his at bat after his at bat is over and he notices something he can use the next time up, or he notices the pitcher's tipping his pitch, he hasn't resorted to anything other than his own eyes and intellect to decipher an advantage that he's not even sure about. Somebody in center field monitoring signs that the catcher's throwing down and signaling what's coming, to me, takes it to a whole new level of.
It's hard for me to have a lot of sympathy, though, in terms of if you're too stupid to realize a team is cheating to that degree, change your signs.
Well,
seriously.
yes.
I think it's more naivete.
But
yeah,
you can't
it's just,
blame the,
Well, I can. If you,
the pitcher should be, and the catcher should be cognizant and have some method in place to,
And they did. They changed signs.
right. I think a lot of
you
them
see
do, but to say that, I don't. I'm probably overreacting to what you're saying. You're probably not saying that it's the pitcher's fault that Houston did this, but
for sure not. But I guess what I'm saying is, I get that it fundamentally is against whatever's written in text in a rule book, but I'm just sort of questioning the idea of the rules. And again, in basketball and soccer and any other sport, if you see what the other team is doing, you can. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, you've just figured it out.
Right.
You still have to play the game. These guys still have to hit the ball. They're
that's
they're not
what I'm
predicting
trying-
where the ball's going.
that's what I'm trying to say. But to have somebody in center field relaying somebody in the clubhouse to bang on a trash can because it's a fastball, that's above and beyond.
Okay.
That's a serious organized effort on the part of many people to, gain an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I'd say that's where the line is for me. I wouldn't necessarily say a guy in the outfield with binoculars, because that's something that the other team could also do themselves. And to me, I guess that's where the gamesmanship and cheating line is. The Astros rigged up a camera system, which is an advantage that the away team isn't going to have any chance to implement themselves.
What about the idea in the NFL you often hear the home team pumps noise into a stadium to prevent the other team from hearing and causing all sorts of disruption? That's the same thing.
Yeah, I don't
But
think
nobody
they-
ever gets in trouble for it. It's just gamesmanship.
Well, I don't think they should be doing that. I mean, if you can't count on, if your crowd is loud enough to distract the other team, then fine. But I don't think you should artificially pump noise in there, or, anything else.
They changed the wind direction, AC direction at the Homer Dome during the 1987 World Series. So when the Twins were batting, it was facing toward the outfield to help carry balls out, and they'd pump it on high. And then when the Cardinals were batting, they'd face it toward the infield and pump it on high. They admitted to that later. So I would say,
too.
yeah, there's a line to that. Baseball is weird because cheating is celebrated to an extent, but then you get to a point where, I mean, there are some hard lines. I'd say the buzzer thing is a hard line. I'd say betting on your own team is a hard line, and those you just hold.
What about the idea of there's Hall of Famers in the Baseball Hall of Fame who have come out and said they did things with the ball, the pitchers? How is that any less of an offense when you're fundamentally doctoring? You know, that's what the Patriots got in trouble for, deflating footballs. Greasing a pitcher. They got caught. That's the thing. Yeah. Is like, how is that? We're making an uproar about it because the league wasn't fundamentally prepared for technology and the advances of it, and Houston just got ahead of the curve.
I agree with you to the point where you say they got ahead of the curve. They went 3 corners around and back again.
Sort of that win at all costs mentality. I mean, I think there's a line. I just don't know where it is.
Well, they went over it for sure.
Yeah, and they
broke it down. They concealed it. They hid. They had the TVs in the tunnel, and then as soon as the game was over, somebody furiously tore it down and put it away so nobody would see. They knew they were doing something wrong. So I don't think that's being ahead of the curve on technology. That's cheating, whether it's binoculars or computers or buzzers, whatever it is. I think it's cheating, and the penalty should be pretty harsh.
Because the best thing I could compare it to, even though it's a really kind of obscure analogy, is I would compare it to poker. So oftentimes in poker, if you are at a poker table and you can get a read on the dealer, or if you pick up on a tell, you're not cheating. You just figured out the tell. But if you're wearing like a buzzer, like in the movie Casino, and you're doing, you're signaling things, that's a line too far for me. But just figuring something out,
you can get shot for that.
That's what, again. So for me, just the initial thing wasn't that big of a thing. If it comes out that they were wearing equipment, that's a thing for me.
Oh, I think the trash can's as big of a thing as the buzzer.
Okay.
To me.
Would you put this on the level of the famous Black Sox scandal, where they were throwing games, or are we far from this being that kind of a?
Well, this is like throwing a game in reverse.
Right, and what I'm saying is that Black Sox scandal got multiple players banned for life, and you're defending not banning people for life. So, what's the level?
I have a hard time. Sorry to interrupt here, but I have a hard time using that as an example for anything. No offense to. I mean, it's a good example to use, but back in the day, these guys. This was their moneymaker. This was. Up until the '60s, these guys had other jobs. So for them to go in and make money somehow. It's cheating, and you give them to a fault. But I think there's a difference between what Cheater Altuve and his cheater friends are doing, because they make so much money. Again, it's a good analogy. I just go back to, these White Sox guys were trying to put food on their table.
So you're saying this is a worse offense than the.
This is absolutely a horrible offense, especially now, in this day and age. Where if you want to go into Astros Stadium, and the first thing the Astros tell you is, "Hey, we've got a camera here. This camera is showing straight to the batter's box. We're going to give you a feed." That's one thing. But when you have that feed set up and you're using it slyly. These guys know they cheated. If they didn't know they cheated, Beltran wouldn't have stepped down as quickly as he stepped down from the Mets. And he's basically admitting it to everybody that there was cheating going on, and whether they continued it without him there is it has no bearing on it. It's they kept cheating. Altuve's a cheater. All the rest of them are cheaters. I would ban them all, and if they don't ban them all, then Pete should be back.
I don't know if we have 2 minutes. I don't know if we have enough time for a Pete conversation.
Just do away with the franchise, relegate them to AAA.
I'm gonna make a note, Stuart. Next time we have you back on the mic, we'll open up that Pete Rose can of worms because I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, I gotta talk to Sean about that one.
We've only got about 2 minutes left in this segment, but I'm just gonna quickly go into the next topic that. We put up a Twitter poll of what people wanted to hear about. We'll quickly discuss Conor McGregor. He won his fight in 40 seconds over the weekend against Cowboy Cerrone. Obviously, it's a big moneymaker. ESPN, UFC made a ton of money. Conor McGregor made $80+ million. A lot of people are wondering what's next for Conor McGregor. You guys care at all? Are you even remotely interested in mixed martial arts?
I'm most interested in your take on this.
Yeah, 2 million per second.
2 million per man. So. There's about a minute left. There's a lot of talk pre-fight and even a little bit post-fight about whether or not Cowboy took a dive, and it's something that's happened a lot in boxing. And I was afraid to get behind that because I want to believe in the honesty of people. But when I watched the fight, it was kind of a soft finish, and I thought, Cowboy Cerrone went from making maybe $100,000 a fight, which is a pretty good chunk, but he made tens of millions of dollars for this fight. And it was definitely the biggest payday of his life. And knowing what I know about him and how tough he is, it surprised me how easily he was beaten. And it just put that little bit of doubt in my mind that I didn't want to have to think about because I wanted it to be a 4 or 5 round affair that was back and forth, but it was not that.
I'm not a huge fan, but to me that kick to the jaw looked like pretty serious business. I mean,
it was a good shot, but Cowboy's he's durable, he's tough, and
I mean, it would have dropped me. Maybe that's not a fair comparison, but
once he went down, I was surprised at how easy it was. He sort of turtled up immediately and just took a bunch of shots. So, yeah, I don't know.
It didn't occur to me. I thought that was a pretty tough-looking shot that
okay.
he took.
I'm also not sold on Conor being back. There's a lot of people saying he's back. That's not necessarily the case in my opinion. Well, we kind of ran out of time on this segment, so unless anybody wants to throw in an overtime card and jump into some other stuff.
I'll keep mine still.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to keep mine, but if I can just give me 10 seconds here. There's been times where I've been hit on the pitch or on the rink where it knocks you senseless, and it's like the smallest little thing. So I can't particularly say he took a dive, but
watch the post-fight and the reactions.
Post-fight,
you might change your mind.
I did not see that. So.
Okay. Conor was in there hugging Cowboy's grandmother, so there wasn't a lot. We won't get on that. So we're going to go into our food for thought. So everyone, something you've been thinking about all week that you just haven't been able to let go. So we're just going to go around the table really quickly. Greg, I'm going to jump to you first. Do you have any food for thought you want to get into?
Yeah, I have one. Just kind of a cool thing that happened a couple of nights ago, I think. It's really kind of not very earth-shattering in its importance, but I don't know if you saw the Kachuk face-off to start the game in the NHL the other night.
That was pretty cool.
It was Calgary and I'm blanking out. Senators. And opening face-off, the two Kachuk brothers were on the wing, and the parents were there. The whole family was up in the stands, and the ref on the opening face-off kicked out the Senators and brought in the Kachuks to take the opening face-off, and it was just kind of a cool moment for the Kachuks. I thought the classy move by the ref, and just thought it was pretty cool.
I like it.
Wes McCauley, one of the one of everyone's favorite officials.
I think the Athletic, speaking of which, they came out with their player poll, which is kind of something people look forward to. I think he was named favorite ref by the players.
I wonder where Kachuk ranked on least favorite players by the players.
Yeah, he's taken some abuse lately, but this was a nice moment for the Kachuk family.
Okay. Well, Stuart, I'm going to go to you next. Do you have any food for thought that you've been thinking about the last week or so?
Well, I've been thinking about that Arenado trade possibility. I think things have changed a little bit again. Today he went out and, or was it yesterday, he was talking about how displeased and disrespected he feels by the Colorado organization. It's just baseball's kind of finding its way through this whole new player out clause that more and more contracts are getting. I know NBA's had it for a while. But Arenado has a opt-out in 2 seasons, and baseball's always been really big on asset management. And how do you deal with a player who's the highest paid player on your team, who's a superstar, but has an opt-out in 2 years, so they're basically a free agent in 2 years, so that lowers their value. And I think you're seeing Colorado ask for a much higher value than teams are willing to pay for that. So that, to me, is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and I think that'll have kind of long-term implications for how teams deal with players in this new contract kind of feature or bug, depending on how you look at it.
If I put you on the spot, Stuart, and you had 10 seconds to answer, do you think Arenado ends up in a Cardinals uniform that started next year?
No.
Okay.
Really?
Right.
I don't know. I think he's angling to get out of Colorado. I don't know where he'll end up.
Yeah, I don't think he ends up here.
I
Like
think
Washington, maybe.
Yeah, I think he, real quick, I know, that comment was because, 2 years ago it looked like Colorado was going to have a team. Last year they were 20 games under 500. They've done nothing this offseason to improve themselves. And
he seems very unhappy with the situation.
I don't know that he's truly feels disrespected, but I'm sure he's not happy and he wants out. So
you see him.
I think this is trying to force Colorado's hand to trade him.
Okay.
That's my opinion. But
okay, Dan, I'm going to go around to you. Your food for thought.
My only food for thought was trying to restructure this whole NHL. How these teams are picked and all this kind of stuff. I think you should just collectively get I don't know how many guys. What do we got? 11 per team. So you just collectively get the 44 guys, and on Friday night before I think that's when they should pick these teams. And I truly think that the captain picks first, and from there on captain picks. Let's say it's Petro. Petro makes a pick, and then from then on, whoever's picked picks the next pick for the team. It's already gimmicky enough, not gimmicky enough, but we need to make it gimmicky. Otherwise, it's just going to go on the wayside, as all the rest of these All-Star games are, which are just boring nothingness. I would have to say that the only one I do find interesting is the NBA, because at least they're having fun with it and throwing crazy alley-oops and seeing who can dunk on all these kind of things, whereas everything else is just it's these players are just out there trying not to get hurt, trying not to pull a muscle, and all this kind of stuff. So either get rid of the game or make it more fun. Like I've said before, it should just be a thing where they just drop the puck and let these guys go for as long as they want to go.
I mean, the NBA does have the captain's pick team, so I think that does contribute to the fun of it.
Yeah, and then it's to me, how funny would it be to realize your team at the last possible minute, and then like I was telling Sean off air, it was how funny would it be if Draisaitl and McDavid are sitting in the room and they're going, hey, who's next? Who's coming in next? And they see Tkachuk walk in. It's just, they have fun with it. I'm sick of all these, or get rid of these All-Star games. Just give these guys a week off and let them go on vacation or something.
I don't think they'd have too much fun with that.
Taking the week off?
No, those particular fellas you just mentioned.
Oh, Tkachuk and Draisaitl.
But the cameras would love it, though.
They used to do that format, though. They had that format briefly
for a couple of years where the captains, it's 2 teams and the captains pick the teams. But again, it's
maybe it's a chance for them to bridge that Tkachuk McDavid, because they did that in the NBA famously when Kevin Durant left the Thunder, he ended up on an All-Star team with Russell Westbrook, and they had a bit of a real life rivalry, and that was kind of their chance to make peace.
Yeah.
So it kind of added a whole nother level of drama to otherwise a meaningless game.
How many? I mean, we all grew up playing sports. How many times did you go into a locker room off season to play on a different team, and you turn the corner and there's the guy that you almost got into a fist fight with, or injured, or they injured you or something. To me, it happened quite a few times playing indoor soccer. You turn the corner and you're like, oh, what are you doing here? And you're like, oh, you're on my team, and then you end up being good friends and kind of thing. So change it up.
Yeah. I think 3 of us are on board with gimmicky with it, but probably not Greg. So.
I see the point. I see the appeal.
Okay. You'd still watch
I'd
or
still
not
watch.
watch, maybe. I don't know.
No, I'd still watch.
My food for thought is, I hope I don't butcher her name. It's the slow but incredible rise of female coaches in the NFL and NBA specifically. And I want to talk about Katie Sowers, 31. I don't know, you guys familiar with her?
I saw the report.
Okay.
Is she a new Giants coach?
No, but I will mention her as well. Katie Sowers became the first openly gay and second full-time female coach in the NFL when she took a job with the 49ers as an offensive assistant coach a couple of years ago. She's being recognized this week because she's the first female coach to go to the Super Bowl, which is a really cool thing. And she has a quote that I wanted to read really quickly about inclusive workplaces. She was quoted as saying, "There are so many people who identify as LGBT in the NFL, as in any business, that do not feel comfortable being public about their sexual orientation. The more we can create an environment that welcomes all types of people, no matter race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, the more we can help ease the pain and burden that many carry every day." And I thought that was such a profound quote, and it's so cool to see somebody like her. I also want to recognize Becky Hammon. If you're familiar with her, she was one of the first female coaches in the NBA.
She's still coaching, right?
She is. There's actually 11 female assistant coaches in the NBA, so a third of the teams have female coaches, which is a really fantastic thing. And I'm always an advocate for the NBA being one of the most progressive leagues in the world, and I think that's a testament to it. And then this week, in the San Francisco Giants named Alyssa Nakken as the first female coach in Major League Baseball. So seeing a lot of influx of female coaches in NFL, NBA, MLB. The point of the story is I think you hire the person best deserving of the position. It doesn't matter who they are, and that slowly breaks down the barriers. And so it's really cool to see a lot of these females in great positions in a male-dominated sports world. So
I think it's overdue.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it's time overdue. Some of these women have a lot more knowledge that they can pass along, and are sometimes better at expressing themselves. I personally can't think of if I've ever had a female coach, but I've had female assistant coaches, and they've helped out just as well. And I think it's good.
I admittedly don't know enough about the San Francisco locker room and haven't heard enough, but I know specifically with the San Antonio Spurs, a lot of their players have given some really good responses about working with Becky Hammon and how much they respected her and how unbelievably intelligent she was about the game of basketball. And that was really refreshing to hear these guys being so willing to, take coaching from a female head coach or a female assistant coach. Because I think, again, like you said, we're long past that being a thing. And so the quicker that we get past it, the better.
Yeah, in St. Louis, for the longest time, one of the best coaches for hockey has been Diana Schaefering in her skating school. It's 30. It's going on 20-something years now that I've heard her name as the best one of the best in the area for learning how to skate. So, I think we're behind the times that there's only 11 in the NBA, and there's a dozen, maybe more around all the rest of the leagues. There should be more.
Yep. So, okay, we're going to step away for 60 seconds for a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up with our Breakroom Battle, so don't go anywhere.
This is Emily from Office Essentials. Did you know that germs on hands can be transferred up to 7 times, making frequently touched surfaces in the office hotspots for viruses? And a virus can spread through an entire office in just a few hours. Some germs can even live for days on hard surfaces. So hot spots like door handles, keyboards, light switches, desktops, and even elevator buttons should be cleaned even more often. And don't forget about the kitchen. Break rooms have some of the germiest surfaces in the entire office. Sink faucets, microwaves, and refrigerator handles too. Office Essentials can help you protect your office from sickness this flu season. Right now at stlofficesupplies.com, we're offering a free printable poster that you can print and hang around your office. It contains tips to help coworkers prevent the spread of the flu. Office Essentials is your hometown supplier of all the office supplies and furniture you need to run and grow your business. Learn more today at stlofficesupplies.com.
All right, thanks for sticking around. Before we get into this week's Breakroom Battle, we're going to quickly go over the results from last week. So the question was, if Justin Bieber got 5 breakaway/shootout chances against Jordan Binnington, which will likely happen this summer in the offseason, will he score at least once? The overwhelming answer was 85% of people said no, he will not score. There were those 15% of crazy people out there who do think that Justin Bieber has the slimmest of chances. But we will get into this week's Breakroom Battle, which is going to be a 2-parter in lead up for the Super Bowl. So we'll have one question this week and one question next week. It's been 51 years since the Chiefs last won the Super Bowl. So our question this week is, are you actively hoping the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year? Quickly around the room, yes or no? Stuart?
Abstain.
Greg?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes, I think they will.
I'm definitely hoping that they win the Super Bowl. So be sure to weigh in. We'll have this up on Facebook, Twitter, in our own Office Essentials Break Room. We want to hear your feedback, so definitely hit us up before next week. That will do it for the episode. Be sure to tell your friends if you like what you heard. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode, and we'll catch you again next week.